The ground shook before I heard the crash. I dropped my tools and ran toward the smoke rising over the ridge, my heart pounding against my ribs. Something had fallen out of the sky, and it was still burning. My name is Daniel Ford, and I live alone at the edge of the northern woods, far from any town. That night I was checking my fence line when the sky lit up green and the trees bent sideways from the force of it. I did not think, I just ran. When I reached the crash site, the wreckage was small, no bigger than a delivery van, twisted and smoking against a fallen tree. Metal I did not recognize, lights blinking in patterns that made no sense. And then I heard it. A small cry, sharp and frightened, coming from inside the broken hull. I pulled at the jagged metal with my bare hands until my palms bled. Inside, curled into a corner, was a girl. Not human. Her skin held a faint blue shimmer, like moonlight on water, and her eyes were too large, too bright, glowing faintly in the dark. She could not have been older than 8 or 9, if her kind aged the way we do. She screamed when she saw me. I froze, hands raised, and spoke as gently as I could, though I knew she could not understand a word. "I am not going to hurt you," I said. "You are safe, I promise." She did not understand my language, but something in my voice must have reached her, because her screaming turned to quiet sobs. I wrapped my jacket around her small shoulders and carried her out of the wreck just before the whole thing collapsed in on itself with a low groan of dying metal. I brought her home. I did not know what else to do. Calling the authorities felt wrong, though I could not explain why. Some instinct in me said that whatever had happened up there, whatever had sent her falling out of the sky, it was not an accident, it was an escape. The first 3 days were hard. She would not eat. She flinched at every sound. She stared at the door like she expected someone to break it down. I set up a translator device I had bought years ago for hiking trips abroad, hoping it might catch fragments of her language, but it only produced static and broken words. On the 4th day, she pointed at herself and said a sound. It took me several tries to repeat it correctly. "Mira," she said again, softer this time, almost like she was testing whether I would remember it. "Mira," I repeated. She nodded, and for the first time, she almost smiled. After that, things changed quickly. Mira learned faster than any child I had ever known. Within 2 weeks, she was stringing together simple sentences in English, mixing them with words from her own tongue when she got excited. She loved the stew I made with wild mushrooms. She hated thunderstorms and would climb into my lap and cover her ears until they passed. She drew pictures of stars connected by thin lines, entire maps of systems I had never heard of, filling page after page with a hunger that told me she was remembering something, not inventing it. But there were other signs too. Signs that made my chest tighten every time I noticed them. Twice a week, ships passed high overhead, faint streaks of light moving too fast and too smooth to be planes. Every single time, Mira would go rigid, grab my hand, and pull me toward the cellar without a word. She never told me who she was hiding from. I never pushed her to say. One evening, while sorting through old star charts I kept from my grandfather's collection, Mira leaned over my shoulder and tapped one section with her small finger. "Wrong," she said, frowning. Then she took the pencil from my hand and corrected the positions of 3 stars I had never questioned in my life. When I checked them against newer data the following week, she had been exactly right. A child who could correct interstellar star charts was not an ordinary child. I started to worry, not about her, but for her. Someone out there was looking for a girl like this, and I doubted they were friendly. I began keeping the doors locked at night. I began sleeping with one eye open. 6 weeks after I found her, the sky broke open again. It was near sunset when the light appeared. This time, not a crash, but a controlled descent. A shape unfolded above the tree line, silver and enormous, casting a shadow that swallowed my entire property. The air buzzed with a pressure I could feel in my teeth. Mira grabbed my arm so hard it left marks, her whole body trembling, but she did not run to hide. She stood beside me, chin lifted, as if she had decided something. The ship landed in the open field beyond my fence, crushing nothing, disturbing nothing, as if gravity itself obeyed it. A ramp lowered with a hiss of white mist, and figures walked down in formation, tall and armored, weapons held low but ready. My hands shook, but I did not step back. I put myself slightly in front of Mira without thinking about it. Then she came. A woman descended last, and the moment she appeared, the armored figures straightened like soldiers before a general. She wore no armor, only flowing robes the color of deep ocean water, stitched with patterns of light that shifted as she moved. Her eyes were the same too bright glow as Mira's, but sharper, colder, carrying the weight of command. She looked at me the way a queen might look at an insect that had wandered somewhere it should not be. "Where is my daughter?" she said. Her voice was steady, and my translator caught every word perfectly, as though her language had been built for authority to be understood by anyone. Before I could answer, Mira ran forward and threw her arms around the woman's waist. "Mother!" she cried, and the word needed no translation at all. The woman knelt, pulling Mira close, running her hands over her daughter's face and arms as if checking for injuries. For a moment, the crushing power radiating from her softened into something achingly human. Then she rose again, and her eyes found me, hard and searching. "You kept her," she said. "It was not a question. For 6 weeks, you kept her. And you did not sell her, did not trade her, did not call anyone." "I did not know who to call," I said honestly. "I only knew she was scared and hurt, and I could not leave her out there alone." The armored guards shifted, weapons rising slightly at my tone, but the woman raised one hand, and they stilled instantly. "Do you know what she is?" the woman asked. "No," I admitted. "She never told me. I never asked. It did not matter to me." Mira turned in her mother's arms and spoke rapidly in her own language, gesturing at me, at the house, at the woods around us. I caught only fragments through the translator, words like kind and safe, and stayed with me. Whatever she said, it changed something in her mother's face. "My daughter is heir to the Sarion Dominion," the woman said slowly, watching my reaction. "Her line has ruled 11 systems for 600 years. She was taken during an attempt on her life, and the vessel meant to smuggle her to safety was struck and forced to crash on this world. We have searched every corner of this system for 6 weeks, believing her lost, or worse." I did not know what to say. I looked at Mira, at the small girl who ate my stew and hated thunderstorms, and corrected my star charts without a hint of arrogance, and I could not connect her to the word heir or the word dominion. To me, she had simply been Mira. "I did not know any of that," I said. "It would not have changed anything. She needed help. I helped her." The woman studied me for a long moment, the kind of look that seemed to weigh every word I had ever spoken in my life. Behind her, one of the armored guards muttered something sharp, something that sounded like a suggestion that I be silenced for what I now knew. The woman turned her head slightly, and with a single glance, the guard fell silent and stepped back. Mira felt the tension too. She pulled free of her mother and stood in front of me, small arms spread wide as if she alone could shield me from an army. "No," she said fiercely, first in her own language, then again in English so there could be no mistake. "He saved me. He is not your enemy." The silence that followed stretched long enough that I could hear my own heartbeat. Finally, the woman's shoulders lowered, just slightly, and something like respect crept into her expression. "Among my people," she said, "kindness without reward is rare. Kindness offered freely to a stranger from the stars, with nothing gained and much risked, is rarer still. I came here prepared to find my daughter's captor. Instead, I find the reason she is alive at all." She stepped forward and placed one hand over her heart, then extended it toward me, palm open, an unmistakable gesture, even without translation. "You have my gratitude, and the gratitude of the Sarian Dominion," she said. "That is not a small thing. Ask for what you wish, and if it is within my power, it is yours." I looked down at Mira, who was watching me with wide, hopeful eyes, silently pleading for something I could not name. "I do not want a reward," I said. "I just want to know she is safe. That is enough for me." The woman's eyes softened further, something almost like disbelief in them now. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small crystal pendant, pressing it into my hand. "This will always open a path to her, should you ever wish to see how she grows," she said. "Few outsiders in our history have earned this. Wear it, human. You have earned a place in my daughter's story, and in mine." Mira hugged me tightly before she turned to leave. whispering a promise in her own language that the translator caught just in time. "I will come back," she said. "I promise, Daniel. I will come back." I watched the ship rise into the night sky, swallowed quickly by the stars, until the light was gone, and the woods around me were quiet again. I stood there for a long time, the small crystal warm in my hand, thinking about how one ordinary night had changed everything, not because I had done anything extraordinary, but because I had simply chosen to help. Somewhere out among those stars, an empire now knew that a lonely man in the woods had shown their heir more kindness than her own guards had managed in 6 weeks of searching. And somewhere out there, a little girl who once hated thunderstorms was carrying a piece of home with her, wherever she went next. I looked up at the sky one more time before heading inside, and for the first time in years, I did not feel quite so alone.